California State Prison, Los Angeles County, would first open its doors in 1993 and today houses approximately 2,700 minimum, medium, maximum, and high security custody inmates. Just a few days ago, on June 1st, 2025, at approximately 7:40 a.m., incarcerated individual Michael P. O'Neill would allegedly attack two corrections officers while they were monitoring the morning meal release. O'Neill would begin stabbing one officer with an improvised weapon, and as another officer immediately responded, O'Neill began attacking that officer as well.
This is Pleasant Valley State Prison in Central California, and what's called a Sensitive Needs Yard, or SNY for short. It's supposed to be a relatively safe place to do your time, but that's all changed. This is home for Anna Ray Brown, doing 31 years for his part in a gangland killing.
I'm at the pinnacle, on top of my game.
He's also known as X-Rated, the street name he's used in the release of a dozen rap albums. In this video obtained by Fox 11 News, X-Rated, here in the black pants, is attacked by two knife-wielding inmates who want him dead. It sparks a small prison yard riot. Incident report, X-Rated tells investigators, it was Northern Riders who stabbed me. Northern Riders, who use the Playboy Bunny as their symbol, are a prison-based gang composed of dropouts who left other gangs, came to an SNY yard seeking protection, and then formed a new gang. And the SNYs have gone from a haven for safety to a den of predators, says Central California gang investigator Robert Clayton.
I've had inmates request to go back to the main line, the general population, because they were more afraid of these SNY gangs than they were of the gang they left prior. So we have guys that ask for protection all the time off of a protection yard.
In this case, these Northern Riders, all lifers, were allegedly extorting X-Rated to force him to produce a rap album of their own. Investigators say Northern Riders, who also use a falling star as their symbol, grew from 6 members to 800 in a decade, making it the fastest growing SNY gang. But Northern California investigator Mike Brody says, not the only one.
All over the state. There are dropout gangs for every ethnic group and every territorial group.
Brothers by choice, sucker-free, independent riders, cutthroat family, bad news banditos. Since the 1990s, the list has grown to more than 24 SNY gangs. Some have disappeared, but investigators say there are now SNY gangs at 22 of the state's 33 prisons. That's up from just 2 SNY yards that were first established in 1998. Gang investigator Billy Idroso worked the San Diego prison beat.
They're dangerous because what people don't realize is just because you're a dropout, it doesn't mean that you lost that mentality. You know, you still have that gangster mentality.
And here on these SNY yards, that means taxing, extortion, theft, drug dealing, assaults, and even murder.
It's just drama. That's all they are, is drama.
This inmate, who does not want to be identified, says he's been jumped a couple of times on SNY yards.
So wait for you to get your drugs out and come over and just take what you have. You're going to send money to my books, and if you don't, we're going to smash you.
Ironically, these SNY, or protective custody yards, are supposed to be safer than the main line.
It was a movement.
Dagoberto Noyola, known as Dago, says he's a founding member of the 25s, also referred to as Dos Cincos, Cinqueros, Pesetas, the Spanish word for a quarter, or simply the numbers.
It wasn't a gang back then, it was just a way of life for us because we had to survive.
It started, he says, with less than a dozen dropouts, all at odds with the Mexican mafia, who bonded together for self-protection here in Birch Hall at the California Institution for Men in Chino. That was 20 years ago.
You must understand it's an insane world with an insane set of rules here, and they change so much.
Dago says The two fives were tired of mafia politics.
You didn't adhere to their policies, you were an outcast.
Tired of doing hits on their own homeboys.
A gang is a gang. We're supposed to be a brother here, but it's like pretty much everybody throwing everybody under the bus.
And tired of paying the mafia a 1/3 cut on all the drugs they sold.
Nobody likes anybody else in their pocketbook.
The two fives, now the largest SNY gang with 1,500 members and associates, set up their own list of rules discouraging unwanted attention and homosexual activity and demanding respect for each other, free of ridicule, and dedicated to wiping out the more established prison gangs.
MA, AB, NLR, those are our enemies. That's who I war against.
The two fives grew along with an expanding pool of recruits as a record 30,000 inmates dropped out of their gangs during the past 12 years, all tired of traditional prison gang politics.
They're tired of getting used. You can't trust nobody. Your best friend will be the first one to stab you in the back.
Investigators say SNY gangs are more appealing with a structure and leadership that is loose. They're interracial. Members are allowed to flip in and flip out. But prison investigators warn the game is still the same.
Making money and controlling the yards.
That's led to an unprecedented number of riots and injuries on the supposedly safer SNY yards.
I think it all boils down to is you can't take that gangster out of that gangster lifestyle.
And investigators agree, here on the SNY yards at California prisons, there's a whole new evolution of gangs. What is even more frightening, say those who are following this phenomena closely, is that the influence and violence of the SNY gangs is already bleeding out into the streets. We'll have more on that story next Sunday. Chris Blatchford, Fox 11 News.
Record numbers of inmates are dropping out of gangs in the California prison system. They're flooding what are called sensitive needs yards, or SNYs. But now those supposed dropouts have formed a new brand of gang. In part 2 of his report on SNY gangs, Chris Blatchford says they're now moving their criminal influence from the prisons to the streets.
Go in the same car, pick up a bag, and bam.
Investigators say 5 members of the Northern Riders gang gathering in this Central Coast motel room are planning a robbery.
They'll have a bank within distance where the store's at, so they don't have to drive too far.
In this undercover video obtained by Fox 11 News, you only see Joey Cloud, known as Smokey. He has the word Rider tattooed in big letters across his neck, and the gang's symbol, a Playboy bunny logo, inked on his scalp. Gang investigator Mike Brody says Northern Riders meet every month in sessions called networking or council.
Everybody gets together. This is what I do. I know how to do robberies. I know how to steal cars. I got a connection for drug trade.
Investigators say Northern Riders were formed a decade ago behind prison walls. And it's the fastest growing group of a new hybrid of prison-based gangs composed of dropouts who left other gangs and went into protective custody on so-called sensitive needs yards, or SNY for short. Then those dropouts formed new SNY gangs.
That's all they know is gang lifestyle.
Prison gang investigator Robert Clayton.
And we thought, well, we could just change that by opening up this yard and giving them opportunity to start over. But you could take the gangster out of the gang, but you're never going to take that gangster out of him.
Agents have identified as many as 24 of these new SNY gangs. All are recruiting from an expanding pool of 30,000 gang dropouts. That's 10 times more than a decade ago. Prison sources say gangsters are now dropping out at the unprecedented rate of 2,400 a year. Francisco Hernandez, also known as Frank Nitti, belongs to what is estimated to be the largest SNY gang, the Two Fives, also known as Dos Cincos, DC, or the Numbers.
We got betrayed, disrespected, everything.
Nitti, who says he did a number of hits for the Mexican mafia before they stabbed him 16 times, explains he and other dropouts became disillusioned with the heavy-handed rule of traditional prison gangs, Mexican Mafia, Nuestra Familia, Aryan Brotherhood, Nazi lowriders, and Black Guerrilla Family. Now he's committed to 2-5 revenge.
Mexican Mafia, like, I go against them now. So if I see one that's really active, I try to get him. I try to do whatever I could do to hurt him, you know, whatever it takes. Murders, kidnapping, robberies.
And that, cops say, is now translating into a new brand of organized crime, SNY gang style.
We gotta have fools too that know how to steal cars.
And like these northern riders, growing influence and violence not only on prison yards,
In order to do something like that, we need a stolen car.
but out here in the community.
I know how to steal cars.
Cops say the northern rider heard talking in this video is also caught on camera during this home invasion robbery. Drug ripoffs at mafia-related stash houses are a favorite target. And the SNY gangs have a more even split of the take than more traditional mobsters.
The profits are spread amongst each other equally rather than one individual profiting from them.
Bunny tattooed northern rider girlfriends are used to open credit card accounts to fund buys of drugs and guns. And detectives say this northern rider's crew, recently convicted and sent to prison, bought that contraband from a cartel member in the Central Valley. During a search of Maldito Mejia's residence, cops found narcotics and plastic baggies emblazoned with the NR Bunny symbol.
Wanting people to know that whoever bought that dope, that they were buying it from the Northern Riders for the purpose of creating fear and intimidation.
Frank Nitti says it's the same for 2-5ers.
Now it's like, man, everywhere you go, you see a 2-5er. We wear jerseys, wear DC hats. Now these days, there's a lot of 2-5ers in the streets.
We're starting to see a lot of them.
Gang detective Robert Morales says it was a 2-5er parolee who crashed this stolen car in Rialto. Eric Robledo, known as Mosco, a 2-5 tattoo hidden on his back, is now doing 5 years in prison after leading cops on a high-speed chase. At the end, he hit a guardrail, which swung back into a police car, injuring an officer. He then took off on foot.
We actually caught Robledo a block away, hiding inside of a garage. He then self-admitted to us that he was 2-5.
In San Bernardino, Peter Wino Amaya, a former 7th Street West Side Verdugo shot caller seen here in court, is accused in a plot to murder a gang dropout named Alicio Aguilar, known as Pequeño, also a 2-5er. Detective Bob Kelly.
We believe that he was in fact going to try to kill him.
A hit.
A hit.
Investigators say Wino was going to use these guns to do the hit. 8 other conspirators have already been convicted, and sources now tell Fox 11 News that Wino, who's been fighting the case and fell out of favor with the Mexican Mafia, is bragging around the San Bernardino County Jail that he's now become a 2-5er. Detective Mike Martinez.
It's a Shark Tank, and if you're not at the top of that pyramid, you're going to be the shark that gets eaten.
And in West Sacramento, there's another example of SNY gang presence in the streets. Billy Wolfington and Shannon Silva, both affiliated with Northern Riders, are facing a possible death penalty. Detectives say here in the parking lot of this motel last September, in a dispute over a drug debt, the 2 parolees allegedly stabbed a Crip gangster to death.
Because everywhere you go, it's like you got SNYs everywhere now. We're getting bigger now, you know?
Prison investigators say there's already evidence that SNY gangs have spread to other states, including Oregon, Washington, Colorado, Idaho, Oklahoma, and Nebraska. That's no surprise to Frank Nitti.
I like the thrill. I know what I'm getting into. I go out there and I do what I got to do, you know.
Investigators, aware the phenomenon started here in prison, believe it's time to treat SNY gangs just like a prison gang. Lock down active members in high-security cells known as shoes, and implement a tougher screening process for gang dropouts seeking protection on SNY yards. One investigator tells us the worst thing we can do is pretend this SNY gang phenomenon is not a real threat. Chris Blatchford, Fox 11 News.
What's going on, you guys? Welcome back. Another episode of Green Lit Gang TV. Much love, much appreciation. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch the video today. It means a lot that you are here. Really quick, before we get into the video, we got to do the introduction. If you are new to the channel, welcome. Thank you for taking the time to watch the video. It really does mean a lot. And if you do end up liking it, please go back, watch some of my other videos, watch some of my other content, and let me know what you think. If you are someone who has continued to support this channel, has continued to watch my videos and engage, and you already know how much you guys mean to me. I am nothing without the people that have continued to support me. You guys are the reason the numbers are going up and growing. If you've been watching my videos, you've known, especially in this year, in 2025, that 20,000 subscribers was the goal. We're almost at 19,000, and I really think if you know, it's going to be up to me. I got to make a hard push, bring out the good content that you guys like. I really think we can hit 20,000 in June. So again, thank you to everybody. And lastly, if you like what you see, if you like what you hear, hit the like button, hit the comment button, engage in some conversation. And lastly, please do subscribe. Thanks again, guys. All right, guys. So today's story, we're going to be talking about a stabbing of two corrections officers, like we said in the intro, at California State Prison, Los Angeles County. Happened just a few days ago on June 1st at around, basically during breakfast. Michael P. O'Neill would begin stabbing one officer. A second officer would try to engage, and he was also stabbed as well. But before we jump into it, Michael P. O'Neill, he is a documented Northern Riders gang member. Northern Riders, an SNY gang, Sensitive Needs Yards gang that was developed. They basically initially were from ex-Norteño gang members, dropouts, who became disenfranchised with the politics, the very strict structure that Norteños, Sureños, the Mexican Mafia, the Nuestra Familia, these guys drive a really, really hard line, and some people are not cut out for it. So they go to these other SNY gangs. You got the 2-5ers, the Zapatistas, the Northern Riders, who, in this case, Michael P. O'Neill, he is a Northern Rider. Just doing some reading, a little bit of background. And again, I'm not giving a full confirmed breakdown history on these guys. Feel free to comment down below, fill me in on some more information. The little bit I read, okay, before we jump into this, the Northern Riders, they first started gaining attention at around 2000 at Tracy's Duell Vocational Institution. Then I found another article talking about how they really came on the FBI's radar. This is a May 2008 FBI classified report that said the Northern Riders, were one of two groups of former Norteño gang members posing an increasing threat on the streets of Monterey, Santa Clara, San Francisco, Sacramento, and Mendocino County. Their enemies were active members of both the Norteños and the Sureños. The California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation classified the Northern Riders as, quote, a disruptive group instead of a prison gang. I guarantee you that has changed now. I guarantee you that article was from 2010, May of 2010 to be exact. I guarantee you now they are a fully established prison gang. California prison system is kind of becoming a mess. You've got mixing now what they call 50-50 yards, where you've got GP, general population inmates, with SNY inmates, sensitive need yards inmates, PC, right? It's PC. And again, you've got this rise of these SNY gangs that are gaining power behind prison walls and on the streets. And the main character of our story today, Michael P. O'Neill, was a documented Northern Riders gang member. But okay, let's jump right into it here. This is an article from the CDCR a day after the attacks. California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation officials are investigating an attack on two peace officers at California State Prison, Los Angeles County, as an attempted homicide. On June 1st, 2025, at approximately 7:40 a.m., incarcerated person Michael P. O'Neill allegedly attacked two officers while they were monitoring the morning meal release. O'Neill began stabbing one officer with an improvised weapon. Morning meal release. That's just a fancy way of saying they were eating breakfast, man. They were... You're sitting there half asleep, drinking coffee, trying to have some peace in the morning, maybe reading the paper. Another officer immediately responded, and O'Neill began attacking that officer as well. Staff quickly quelled the attack without further incident. No other staff members were injured. Medical personnel were summoned and 911 was activated. The officers were transported to an outside medical facility where they were treated and discharged. An improvised weapon was found at the scene. But he got at two of these guys, man. So, got to give him some credit for being down. I mean, he's going at one. A second corrections officer jumps in, tries to stop it. O'Neill flips around on him, pokes him up. So he knew what he was doing. And he's in his, he's in his early 40s. He's done time, as you'll see. I got some good background information on here. But he was able to get the two of them before he basically just got outnumbered and overwhelmed. O'Neill was transported to a different institution where he will be placed in restricted housing. And then from there, they're just going to notify the district attorneys, and then they're going to decide, are we going to take further action and basically charge him with another felony. O'Neill, 42, was most recently received from Sacramento County on June 28, 2017, to serve 5 years, 4 months for first-degree burglary, vehicle theft, and evading or attempting to evade a peace officer while driving recklessly, second-strike offenses, and second-degree burglary. He was also sentenced by Tuolumne County on August 5, 2020, to 12 years for second-degree robbery with enhancements of inflicting great bodily injury on a person 70 years or older and use of a firearm. So this guy was definitely an absolute menace. He's out here robbing senior citizens. He's out here robbing your grandma and grandpa. But I did come across a really interesting article, in all seriousness, back on January of 2014, when he was only 32 years old. He was actually dating a rip-on California police officer, a female police officer, and it went down. So I'm going to read this article. I'm not even going to try to explain it. I'm just going to read the article. I think you guys will enjoy it. A strange tale, and this is January 10th, 2014. A strange tale of a documented male gang member, a road rage incident, and a female Ripon police officer came to a head Thursday when news that the man had turned himself in became public. The officer is no longer employed with the department. Michael O'Neill, 32, was being sought by Modesto police officers after an October incident in which the Northern Rider gang member allegedly punched a man in the face on the Pellendale Avenue off-ramp. The man then fled, and O'Neill, who was reportedly driving the Jeep Rubicon of off-duty Ripon police officer Mindy Morris, chased the man through the streets of Modesto. Morris, a 7-year veteran of the department, admitted in the arrest affidavit that she was dating O'Neill and she was in the vehicle when the entire exchange went down. Sometimes it's true, man. The girls do. They like the opposite, man. But what's that? The bad boy, the gang member, the tattoos, all that. A lot of that times, man, that stuff is absolutely true. According to an article in the Modesto Bee, she was placed on administrative leave for failure to report a crime, active association with a known gang member, and actions unbecoming of an officer. Quote, I can't really comment on the matter because it's a personal issue, Ripon Police Chief Ed Ormond said. Quote, she did resign and we are in the middle of finishing up an internal investigation on the matter. Quote, we're working right now on helping out neighborhood agencies in any way possible as they investigate the matter further. Morris has not been charged with any crime. O'Neill pleaded not guilty to charges of battery and assault with a deadly weapon, and as of Friday morning, he was no longer in custody at the Stanislaus County Jail. But the incident was only the surface of what investigators believe could be an ongoing relationship, this is crazy, between the gang O'Neill is a member of and a Modesto bail agent. Praveen Singh was arrested by Modesto police officers in late November and charged with shooting at an occupied building and commissioning both a shooting and a robbery. A year-long investigation into Singh gave investigators the impression that he had developed a close relationship with members of the Northern Riders, including O'Neill, and was using them to exert influence over people inside the Stanislaus County Jail and those that had been released. He's the bail bondsman. He made bail last week and in an interview with Modesto Bee declared his innocence. Quote, it's very hard once your image is ruined in the community to build your image, Singh said in an interview with the Bee. Quote, that is what is frustrating. To build a reputation, it takes time. To lose it, it is overnight. And that is what is happening to me. And guys, that is absolutely true. It is so hard. You work your whole life to build your rep, and it takes one incident, in the eyes of the public or people that love you to lose it. Just be aware of that, man. And I go so deep into sobriety and everything else. And as a former addict, I haven't touched on sobriety in the last few videos, but I will say this. As a former addict, I ruined my reputation. I was fired. I remember there was like a 2-year stretch where I lost like 5 or 6 jobs. I totaled 3 or 4 cars, all on a mix of benzos, opiates, and cocaine. And I just remember at one point, I'm not from a huge town, like nobody would touch me. Nobody would give me a shot because I wasn't sober, and they all knew it, and word travels fast. So again, just keep that in mind. And if you are someone who is getting sober, and thinking about, is it worth it to stay sober? I will tell you, it absolutely is. Because especially as a man, all you've got is your word and you know what else. And it's true. It's absolutely true. And you only get one shot at it, man. You only get one life. That's all I'm going to say. And I'm sorry for the little detour here, but it's absolutely true. Okay, but the charges surrounding Singh might be far more extensive. He has also been identified as, quote, a person of interest in the disappearance of Turlock resident Corey Kaufman. The 26-year-old's body was discovered in a remote area of Mariposa County back in August. Records show that Singh made a phone call to the portion of the Stanislaus County Jail where Northern Rider gang members are housed on the day that Kaufman disappeared. In November, his father made a passionate plea to the Turlock Journal calling for anybody with information to come forward. Quote, only those who have been through this can understand what it's like to have your child's life cut short over something so trivial, he wrote. Quote, the knowledge of never seeing him again in this life is unbearable at times. I won't be helping him with his car, going fishing, taking him to the drag boat races, or having him at the house for family gatherings. Most importantly, watch him have a family of his own. So this stuff runs deep, man. And if you guys don't think that small towns with gang members and police officers and small police departments, that this stuff doesn't go on, this stuff runs deep, man. And if you guys think that in these smaller communities, smaller towns, not even super small towns, just your average, throw a dart at a map, right? With these smaller departments and these communities where everybody knows each other and everybody grew up with your brother, your sister, your cousin. If you don't think these gang members and some of these, police officers, like in this case, man, Mindy Morris is dating Michael O'Neill. He's a Northern Rider gang member. They're tied in with the bail bondsman who's, exerting force amongst people in the jail and out of the jail. You got a guy who turns up missing. That stuff happens. It might not happen all the time. I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, but I am a realist. And I can tell you that, yes, this stuff absolutely does happen. So just a couple interesting wrinkles, couple layers to the story that I like to bring you guys. As I've said from the beginning of this year especially, I like bringing you guys more information, not just the surface level stuff. So I hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, you already know what it is. Peace.